1940 dawned with a world already at war. As the calendar turned, Europe held its breath. The phony war was about to give way to intense combat and rapid change. In Berlin, Hitler and his generals plotted their next moves. In London, Churchill and his war cabinet braced for the storm they knew was coming. The stage was set for a year that would alter the course of history. As spring arrived, the world erupted. German forces surged across borders. Cities fell, nations crumbled. The map of Europe was redrawn in weeks. Amid the chaos, acts of incredible bravery and resilience emerged. Let us now delve into the events that shaped this pivotal year. As dawn broke on April 9, 1940, German forces launched a daring assault. Operation Weserübung, the invasion of Denmark and Norway, had begun. Hitler's aim was clear secure iron ore supplies from Sweden and establish bases for future operations against Britain. Denmark fell quickly, overwhelmed by superior forces. The government surrendered within hours, choosing to avoid bloodshed. But Norway was a different story. Despite being outgunned and outmanned, Norwegian forces put up a fierce resistance. They were soon joined by British, French and Polish troops in a desperate attempt to halt the German advance. The campaign in Norway lasted for 2 months. By June 10th, Norway too had fallen under Nazi control. Operation Weserübung had far-reaching consequences. It secured Germany's northern flank and valuable resources. On May 10th, 1940, the relative calm of the phony war was shattered. German forces unleashed their blitzkrieg or lightning war against Western Europe. The Netherlands, Belgium and France were all in Hitler's sights. The speed and ferocity of the attack caught the Allies completely off guard. The Netherlands fell first, overwhelmed in just 5 days. Belgium held out longer, but its army was forced to surrender on May 28th. The real prize, however, was France. Allied forces, including the British Expeditionary Force, found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought by the German tactics. The result was the miracle of Dunkirk, where over 300,000 Allied troops were evacuated from the beaches under fire. Paris fell on June 14th, and France surrendered a week later. The fall of France shocked the world and left Britain standing alone against Nazi Germany. As France teetered on the brink of defeat, Benito Mussolini saw an opportunity. On June 10, 1940, Italy declared war on Britain and France. Il Duce, as Mussolini was known, believed the war was all but won. He wanted to ensure Italy had a seat at the table when the spoils were divided. Italy's entry into the war dramatically shifted the balance of power in the Mediterranean. The British Navy, once dominant in these waters, now faced a significant threat. Despite Mussolini's bravado, Italy was ill-prepared for war. Its military was poorly equipped and led. The Italian declaration of war had one immediate effect. It forced France to fight on 2 fronts in its final days. This hastened the French collapse and led to the signing of a separate armistice with Italy on June 24th. Mussolini had unknowingly set Italy on a path to ruin. Section 5. The Battle of Britain, a nation stands alone. With France defeated, Hitler turned his gaze across the English Channel. To invade Britain, he needed air superiority. And so began the Battle of Britain, one of the most crucial air campaigns in history. From July to October 1940, the skies over southern England became a battleground. The Luftwaffe, Germany's air force, launched wave after wave of attacks. Their targets were RAF airfields, radar stations and aircraft factories, but they hadn't counted on the skill and determination of RAF pilots or the effectiveness of Britain's radar-guided defence system. Day after day, outnumbered British pilots took to the skies. Spitfires and Hurricanes clashed with Messerschmitts in swirling dogfights. By October, it was clear the Luftwaffe had failed. Hitler was forced to postpone his invasion plans indefinitely. The Battle of Britain was over, and the British had won their finest hour. Section 6. The Blitz, London under fire. As the Battle of Britain waned, a new terror descended upon British cities. The Blitz, as it came to be known, was a sustained bombing campaign aimed at breaking British morale. It began on September 7, 1940, when nearly 350 German bombers unleashed their payload on London. For 57 consecutive nights, the capital endured relentless attacks. The destruction was immense. Historic buildings crumbled, entire streets were reduced to rubble. But amidst the chaos, the spirit of Londoners shone through. They took shelter in underground stations, emerging each morning to clear debris and carry on with their lives. The Blitz wasn't confined to London. Other cities like Coventry, Birmingham and Liverpool also suffered heavy bombing. Despite Hitler's hopes, the Blitz failed to break British resolve. Instead, it strengthened their determination to resist. Section 7, Desert Warfare, the North African Campaign. As Europe reeled from the events of 1940, a new front opened in North Africa. Italy, seeking to expand its colonial empire, invaded Egypt from its base in Libya. But the poorly prepared Italian forces were quickly pushed back by a smaller British army. By December, the British had advanced deep into Libya, capturing tens of thousands of Italian prisoners. This setback for the Axis powers prompted Hitler to send reinforcements. Enter Erwin Rommel and his Afrika Korps. Rommel, known as the Desert Fox, would transform the North African campaign into a back-and-forth struggle that lasted for years. The North African campaign was unlike any other theatre of World War II. Vast deserts, scorching heat and sandstorms posed as much of a challenge as the enemy. Control of North Africa meant control of the Mediterranean, vital for shipping and naval operations. The battles fought here would have far-reaching consequences for the course of the war. Section 8, Churchill's Finest Hour. In the midst of the tumultuous events of 1940, one figure stood out as a beacon of defiance and hope. Winston Churchill, appointed Prime Minister on May 10th, the very day Germany launched its Western offensive, Churchill faced the greatest crisis in British history. His response would go down in history as one of the finest examples of leadership in wartime. Churchill's speeches during this period became legendary. On June 4th, after the evacuation of Dunkirk, he warned that we shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. These words rallied the nation and steeled its resolve for the trials ahead. But Churchill was more than just a great orator. He worked tirelessly, often late into the night, to coordinate Britain's war effort. He fostered the crucial relationship with US President Franklin D. Roosevelt, laying the groundwork for America's eventual entry into the war. In 1940, Churchill truly had his finest hour, and in doing so, he gave Britain the strength to endure. Section 9, Technological Advancements in Warfare. The year 1940 wasn't just marked by battles and invasions. It also saw significant technological advancements that would shape the course of the war. Both sides raced to develop new weapons and technologies that could give them an edge over their opponents. In the air, the Battle of Britain showcased the importance of radar. British chain-home radar stations provided early warning of incoming German raids, allowing RAF fighters to intercept them effectively. The Germans, meanwhile, pioneered the use of radio navigation beams to guide their bombers to targets at night. At sea, new technologies were changing the nature of naval warfare. German U-boats became increasingly effective, using wolfpack tactics to hunt Allied convoys. On land, the success of Germany's Blitzkrieg tactics owed much to advances in tank design and radio communication. The technological race that began in 1940 would continue throughout the war, driving innovations that would change the world. Section 10, the home front life in wartime Britain. As bombs fell and battles raged, life on the British home front underwent dramatic changes. The government introduced a range of measures to mobilize the entire nation for war. Rationing, which had begun in January 1940, was extended to cover most food items. Clothes rationing would follow in 1941. Britons learned to make do and mend, finding creative ways to cope with shortages. The face of the workforce changed as women stepped into roles traditionally held by men. Factories that once produced consumer goods were converted to manufacture weapons and military equipment. This home front became crucial to the war effort, producing the materials needed to keep fighting. Air raid precautions became a part of daily life. Blackout regulations meant that no light could be visible after dark to make it harder for German bombers to navigate. Despite the hardships, a strong sense of community spirit emerged. The shared experience of air raids, rationing, and the constant threat of invasion brought people together. Section 11, 1940s Legacy, shaping the course of World War II. As 1940 drew to a close, the world had been irrevocably changed. The events of this pivotal year would echo through the rest of World War II and beyond. The fall of France had redrawn the map of Europe and left Britain standing alone against Nazi Germany. The Battle of Britain and the Blitz had shown that air power alone could not force a nation to surrender. This lesson would influence Allied strategy in the coming years, particularly in the bombing campaigns against Germany. In North Africa, the seeds of a long and grueling campaign had been sown. The Desert War would tie down significant Axis resources and ultimately play a crucial role in the Allied victory.